Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is my spring book haul. So in this video I am going to show you the books that I've purchased recently from Book Outlet and Book Depository. But let's just get right into the books. These first 5 are books that I ordered from Book Depository. And so I got Death Knocks Twice by Robert Thorogood. This is another book in his Death in Paradise series. I love the TV show Death in Paradise, and he writes for that show, and so he has also written a series with the same characters, the same setting, that are kind of outside of the storylines of that show. And so this one is, I'm not sure if this is his latest or not. This is from 2017. 2 dead bodies, a family of suspects, 1 grumpy detective. Reluctantly stationed on the sweltering Caribbean island of Saint Marie, Detective Inspector Richard Poole dreams of cold winds, drizzly rain, and a pint in his local pub. Just as he is feeling as fed up as can be, a mysterious vagrant is found dead at the historic Beaumont plantation. Immediately assumed to be suicide, D.I. Poole is not so convinced and determined to prove otherwise. Never mind that the only fingerprints on the murder weapon belonged to the victim, or that the room was locked from the inside. Before long, death knocks twice and a second body turns up. The hunt is on to solve the case, despite the best efforts of the enigmatic Beaumont family. What I love about these books is they are very much traditional mysteries and often have an element of locked room or impossible crime, which I also really love. So I'm very much looking forward to reading Death Knocks Twice. I also picked up Sussex, Kent and Surrey, 1939. One of the reasons is because of this cover. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I absolutely love this kind of artwork. So this was a book written by Richard Wyndham, and there's an introduction by Peter Ashley. Richard Wyndham's last look round was a tour taken immediately before the Second World War in 1939 and was originally published in the following year as Southeastern Survey. Sussex, Kent and Surrey, 1939 is his charming and playful guide to the treasures of his beloved countryside. Wyndham is a very agreeable companion as he travels in his self-confessed haphazard way round the counties. Often eccentric but always good fun, he drives for the most part on side roads only and through villages and lesser towns. A selection of Wyndham's own black and white photographs taken on his expedition are supplemented here by a new introduction by Peter Ashley. So there's a couple of things here. I really enjoy this time period. So as a history buff, I find this an interesting kind of slice of life from a particular time period. I also really enjoyed this area of England, and so I'm looking forward to reading more about it. And so here are some examples of the pictures you can find. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of browsing my way through Sussex, Kent and Surrey, 1939. Then I also got Signal for Vengeance by Edward Marston. This is another in his Railway Detective series. I really like this series. It's a historical mystery series where a Scotland Yard detective has come to be known as the Railway Detective, and so he often gets called in to solve cases that either take place on the railway or have some kind of connection to railway or trains. This book is set in 1860 in Dorset. A married woman finds some escape from her miserable home life in an affair with another man, but the age-old tale has a new spin put upon it when en route to a tryst, the wife trips over her dead lover on the railway tracks. Inspector Colbeck is drafted in from London to solve the hideous crime, but with no shortage of conflicting alibis and the victim's sordid past complicating matters, the mystery is hard to fathom. With pressure mounting from all sides and urgent matters closer to home requiring his attention, only the railway detective can reveal the truth. So this is a great series, good characters, and always interesting mysteries. And I also got The Death Box by Lorna Nicholl Morgan. Now this is will be a first for me from this author, but this was a book first published in 1946, which is what grabbed my attention. It is considered a twisty tale of mystery and suspense. On a warm summer's night in London, the last thing Joe Train expects is to become involved in a crime. But when a young woman approaches asking for assistance with a dead man, his curiosity gets the better of him. Joe accompanies her to a flat off Conduit Street, only to be left alone after she mysteriously disappears. But it's what she leaves him with that's most disturbing: a large box and a body inside it. After he flees the scene, Joe finds he can't stop thinking about the woman and her unfortunate guest. As he sets about tracking her down, he finds himself at the center of not just one, but several investigations of murder. So yeah, this is kind of a golden age mystery, and I am really looking forward to reading it and seeing what Lorna Nicholl Morgan is like as a writer. And then finally I picked up A Suspicion of Silver by P.F. Chisholm. P.F. Chisholm has written a series of historical mysteries that I really enjoy, but I find hard to get a hold of. And so I have not read the whole series, nor have I read them in order. But this one I was able to get a hold of on Book Depository. And so they are set in 1593, and Sir Robert Carey is our main character. He is Deputy Warden of the West March. And in this book, he rides for Leith in pursuit of the would-be assassin Joachim Hochstetter. His plot to murder King James foiled, has Hochstetter taken ship for the continent or ridden south for England and quite literally gone to ground. Originally from Augsburg, Hochstetter's family runs a smelting business in Keswick amid a colony of German miners. Just how far would they go to protect one of their own? Sir Robert's other problem? His dour and difficult sergeant, Henry Dodd, has disappeared somewhere on the snowy moors. They found his horse, but there's no sign of the rider. Sir Robert's searches will see him sorely tested both north and south of the border, above and below ground, at Sword's Point and at Fuse's End. I really like P.F. Chisholm and her historical mysteries with Sir Robert Carey in the Elizabethan time period are ones that I really enjoy quite a lot, and so I am very excited that I found this one. All right, let's move on to my book outlet order. I found Closed Casket, which is a Poirot mystery from Sophie Hannah, and I think Closed Casket is the second in her series. I believe she has 4 out now. And I believe this is the second, but I could be wrong about that. This one came out in 2016. What I intend to say to you will come as a shock. With these words, Lady Athelinda Playford springs a surprise on the lawyer entrusted with her will. As guests arrive for a party at her Irish mansion, Lady Playford has decided to cut off her 2 children without a penny and leave her vast fortune to an invalid who has only weeks to live. Among Lady Playford's visitors are 2 strangers, the famous Belgian detective Hercule Poirot and Inspector Edward Catchpool of Scotland Yard. Neither knows why he has been invited, until Poirot begins to wonder if Lady Playford expects a murderer. But why does she seem so determined to provoke a killer? And why, when the crime is committed, despite Poirot's best efforts to stop it, does the identity of the victim make no sense at all? So I am intrigued because these are Poirot mysteries that are authorized by the Agatha Christie estate, and that does not happen very often. So I'm very curious to see what she does with Poirot and with Agatha Christie's style of mystery. And then I also found Smoke and Ashes by Abir Mukherjee. This is I believe it's the 3rd in his Sam Wyndham series. So this is another set of historical mysteries set in India post World War I. And so, yes, it is the third in the series. I have read the first. I have not read the second, but I found this on sale on Book Outlet, so I grabbed it while I could because I quite enjoyed the first one. So this one is India 1921. Captain Sam Wyndham is battling a serious addiction to opium that he must keep secret from his superiors in the Calcutta police force. But Wyndham finds himself in a tough spot when he stumbles across a corpse in an opium den. When he then comes across a second body bearing the same injuries, Wyndham is convinced that there's a deranged killer on the loose. However, revealing his presence in the opium den could cost him his career. As Wyndham and Sergeant Surendranath Banerjee, great name by the way, set out to solve the two murders, Wyndham must tread carefully, keeping his personal demons secret before someone else turns up dead. And I also got The Death of Kings by Rennie Airth. I'm not sure how to say that correctly. This is a great historical mystery series. This is the 5th one in the series. The main character is John Madden. And what I love about this series is that the author is not afraid to span time, because the first in the series takes place before the First World War. And this is the 5th in the series, and it is set in 1949, post World War II. And so I find that really interesting. In this series, John Madden used to work for Scotland Yard, but he does not anymore. I believe he is retired. On a hot summer day in 1938, a beautiful actress is murdered on the Grand Kent estate of Sir Jack Jessup, close friend of the Prince of Wales. The arrest of an ex-convict and his subsequent confessions swiftly bring the case to a close. But in 1949, the reappearance of a jade necklace raises questions about the murder. Was the man convicted and executed the decade before truly guilty? Though happily retired from the police force, John Madden is persuaded to investigate the case afresh. In a story of honor and justice that takes Madden through the idyllic English countryside, the post-war streets of London, and into the criminal underworld of the Chinese triads, The Death of Kings is an atmospheric and captivating police procedural. And then I found another in the Sebastian St. Cyr series by C.S. Harris. This is called Where the Dead Lie. I'm collecting this series. I love this series. It's a historical mystery set in London in the early 1800s. This one is set in 1813, and it is the 9th or 10th in the series. Let's see. It's the 12th in the series. One of the city's many homeless children, Benji Thatcher, was abducted and murdered, and his younger sister is still missing. Few in authority care about a street urchin's fate, but Sebastian St. Cyr, Viscount Devlin, refuses to let this killer go unpunished. Uncovering a disturbing pattern of missing children, Sebastian is drawn into a shadowy, sadistic world. As he follows a grim trail that leads from the writings of the debauched Marquis de Sade to the city's most notorious brothels, he comes to a horrifying realization. Someone from society's upper echelon is preying upon the city's most vulnerable. And though dark, powerful forces are moving against him, Sebastian will risk his reputation and his life to keep more innocents from harm. So this is Where the Dead Lie. I love this series. They're quite often mysteries that are related to wealth and power and class and the great divide between the wealthy and the poor. And yeah, so they're always really interesting mysteries and great characters in this series. I also got Bernard Cornwell's Fools and Mortals. Look at that. Isn't that great? I like Bernard Cornwell. I have a few of his books. I haven't read his Sharp series or any of his other kind of longer series, but I do enjoy his writing. And this one, look at the end papers. Yeah, so this takes place in Elizabethan London. In the heart of Elizabethan London, one man must risk all and play the part of a lifetime. Richard Shakespeare dreams of a glittering career in one of the London playhouses, a world dominated by his older brother William. But Richard is a penniless actor making ends meet through a combination of a beautiful face, petty theft, and a silver tongue. As William's star rises, Richard's one-time gratitude is souring, and he is sorely tempted to abandon family loyalty. When a priceless manuscript goes missing, suspicion falls on Richard, forcing him onto a perilous path through a bawdy and frequently brutal London. Entangled in a high-stakes game of duplicity and betrayal that threatens not only his career and potential fortune, but also the lives of his fellow players, Richard has to call on all he has learned from the brightest stages and the darkest alleyways of the city. Showcasing the superb storytelling skill that has won Bernard Cornwell international renown, Fools and Mortals is a richly portrayed tour de force that brings to life a vivid world of intricate stagecraft, fierce competition, and consuming ambition. I am really looking forward to this. I love the Elizabethan time period, and I love books that have William Shakespeare or that connection in them. So I am really excited about this one. I also got The Vanishing Man by Charles Finch. This is part of a series, his Charles Lennox series, that I really love. Again, this is historical mysteries. And in this case, it is a prequel, London 1853. Having earned some renown by solving a case that baffled Scotland Yard, young Charles Lennox is called upon by the Duke of Dorset, one of England's most revered noblemen, for help. A painting of the Duke's great-grandfather has been stolen from his private study, but the Duke's concern is not for his ancestor's portrait. Hiding in plain sight nearby is another painting of infinitely more value, one that holds the key to one of the country's most famous and best-kept secrets. Dorset believes the thieves took the wrong painting and may return when they realize their error. And when his fears result in murder, Lennox must act quickly to unravel the mystery behind both paintings before tragedy can strike again. And so this is called an intricately plotted prequel where the young detective risks his potential career as he hunts for a criminal mastermind. And then I got the last in the Hamish Macbeth series. MC Beaton passed away last year, and so this will be the last Hamish Macbeth, Death of an Honest Man. I haven't read this one yet, although I have read most, if not all, in the series. And in this book, there is a newcomer to the village, Paul English. He's moved to Nauthen, and he is a truth teller, and people don't appreciate it. He tells the Lochdew minister, Mr. Wellington, that his sermons are boring. He tells Tweedy Mrs. Wellington that she is too fat, and in these days of increasing obesity, it is her duty to show a good example. He tells Agatha Brodie her detective stories are pulp for the masses, and it is time she writes literature instead. He tells Jessie Curry, who repeats everything her twin sister says, that she needs psychiatric help. And he even accuses Hamish of having dyed his fiery red hair. So, who killed the honest man? And then I found another in the Daisy Dalrymple series by Carola Dunn. This is The Corpse at the Crystal Palace. I really enjoy this series. This is another historical mystery series set in the 20s. And I just love these covers. I think these are just gorgeous. And so this one is set in London in 1928 at the Crystal Palace. And Daisy Dalrymple takes her young cousins, her 3-year-old twins, her stepdaughter Belinda, the nursery maid, and the nanny. But the nanny disappears. And when she goes looking for her, she finds the body of a stranger, also dressed up in a nanny's uniform. And then I also found a Bryant and May. Christopher Fowler writes the Bryant and May series, The Peculiar Crimes Unit. I love this series. It is quirky and humorous, and I love it a lot. And this is Strange Tide from 2016. So detectives Arthur Bryant and John May are members of this peculiar crimes unit who are tasked with investigating peculiar crimes. And in this case, near the Tower of London along the River Thames, the body of a woman has been discovered chained to a stone post and left to drown. Curiously, only one set of footprints leads to the tragic spot. The bride in the tide, as the London press gleefully dubs her, has the PCU stumped. Why wouldn't the killer simply dump her body in the river, as so many do? Arthur Bryant wonders if the answer lies in the mythology of the Thames itself. Unfortunately, the normally wobbly funhouse quarters of Bryant's mind have become, of late, even more labyrinthine. The venerable detective seems to be losing his grip on reality. May fears the worst as Bryant rapidly descends from merely muddled to one stop short of barking, hallucinating that he's traveled back in time to solve the case. There had better be a method to Bryant's madness, because as more bodies are pulled from the river's depths, his partner and the rest of the PCU find themselves in over their heads. And then I found, I've got a couple of non-fiction books here that I am super excited about. This is Rise Up Women by Diane Atkinson, The Remarkable Lives of the Suffragettes. And I was super excited to find this book. It is a monster of a text, but it is a book about the suffragette movement. And I just had to show you the end papers because these are amazing. So the end papers show cartoons from magazines and newspapers of the time. Can you see that? These are unbelievable. So here's one with a baby crying, "Mummy's a suffragette." And here's another with a baby crying, "I want my vote." Here's one of a man leaning up against the old-fashioned washing machine, implying that he has to do the housework because his wife is a suffragette. And the quote is your wife a suffragette? Oh my goodness, these are awesome. They are horrible, but horribly awesome. And then different ones here along the back. 3 ducks or 3 geese, suffragettes going to Parliament. Anyways, so this book, Rise Up Women, is the story basically of the movement. So between the death of Queen Victoria and the outbreak of the First World War, while the patriarchs of the Liberal and Tory parties vied for supremacy in Parliament, the campaign for women's suffrage was fought with great flair and imagination in the public arena. Led by Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters Christabel and Sylvia, the suffragettes and their actions would come to define protest movements for generations to come. From their marches on Parliament and 10 Downing Street to the selling of their paper, Votes for Women, through to the more militant activities of the Women's Social and Political Union, the bombing of pillar boxes, acts of arson, and the slashing of great works of art. The women who participated in the movement endured police brutality, assault, imprisonment, and force feeding, all in the relentless pursuit of one goal, the right to vote. 100 years on, Diane Atkinson celebrates the lives of the women who answered the call to rise up. A richly diverse group that spanned the divides of class and country, women of all ages who were determined to fight for what had been so long denied. Actresses to mill workers, teachers to doctors, seamstresses to scientists, clerks, bootmakers, and sweated workers, Irish, Welsh, Scottish, and English. A wealth of women's lives are brought together for the first time in this meticulously researched, vividly rendered, and truly defining biography of a movement. So yeah, I am really looking forward to Rise Up and learn more about the suffragette movement. And then last but certainly not least, The History of the Book in 100 Books by Roderick Cave and Sarah Ayad. This is awesome. I first found this in the library, but I had to return it before I was able to really finish it. And so when I saw it on sale on Book Outlet, I scooped it up. And so this is exactly what it says. It's the history of the book from Egypt to ebook. And so they take 100 books and use them to tell the story of the development of the book. And so the chapters are in the beginning, Eastern approaches, the great classics, medieval worlds and the book, light from the east, wheels of change, a dangerous invention, printing and the Enlightenment, print and steam, the book in the turbulent 20th century, digitization and the future of the book. So one thing that I like about this is it's not a history of the book from the Western world. It is a true history of the book, and it looks at the development of the book in all countries, and I like that a lot. And so the outline here, or how it would work, is so here's an example, The Sailor's Guide to Byzantium. And so they talk about the book, they have good pictures and information. And so I'm just really excited to get into this and discover about like how books were printed, the different ways that books are made. Let's see. So yeah, the history of the book in 100 books, and I am just super excited to have this as a reference and to enjoy. So this has been my latest book haul. That was a lot of books, but yeah, I'm super excited about all of them. So have you managed to get any new books recently? I'd love to hear about that down in the comments. Have you read any of these books? I'd love to hear what you thought of them, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.